whenever he's willing to do for you, show up for you, be there for you, support you in ways that do not directly benefit him. And that list kind of goes on. There's a lot more to say, but I wanted to say that for those of y'all who are watching this in replay. But sometimes you're going to deal with a guy who's trash and he's toxic, he's narcissistic, but then there will be a man that God will put in your path who truly loves you. And if you don't know how to recognize that man, or if you have not cultivated the version of yourself that could properly receive that man, you may be the one missing out on your blessing. I'm gonna just keep it real. I ain't here to ear tickle or nothing like that. Now, for the rest of y'all coming in live, let me give you a little backstory. So some of y'all know last week was my birthday. I took a little hiatus, just enjoyed myself, appreciated life, all that good stuff. And thank y'all who sent me happy birthday wishes. Really do appreciate that. But I came back and I saw a couple of messages, first off, because y'all be blowing me up, man. But I saw a couple of messages that had this common thread of, D, is he playing with me? And now typically when that happens, I already expect that y'all gonna show me all these toxic red flags that I gotta tell you how to maneuver and dodge. But what I saw in these messages were things that a guy was doing and it was right, and it was a green flag, but you weren't sure if you should believe in it. Because you thought it was love before when a guy did something similar or when things felt good, and now you're not so sure, so you're just trying to double check so you don't get hurt again. Let me say this. Yes, there are men who don't have the capacity to love and protect and provide and do all the things that you need, but there are men out here who will love you with every fiber of their being, and they know how to do so correctly and properly, and they're tired of the games just like you tired of the games, and they've worked on themselves, and you gotta be equally prepared to receive them the same way you gotta protect yourself and get rid of all the bad. So here's one sign that a man, I'm gonna give you about 5 today, maybe more depending on how the conversation goes, but here's one sign that man loves you, okay? And that's if he holds space for you. And I'm talking about the lesser version of you. You're not just who you are when you got your makeup done, your hair done, when you're in a good place, your money right, your health is good, your family is good. That's not just you, right? Sometimes you get with a guy and he can love that version of you. He can appreciate and be sexual and be attentive and be funny too and make time for that version of you. But then whenever you step out of that, and you're not so strong, and you're not so up and upbeat and happy all the time, and you don't have so much to talk about, and maybe you're a little bit short patience, like you don't feel like putting yourself together the same, like, to the nines and, front cover of Vogue magazine level. You're your lesser version of yourself. And if that man cannot hold space for that, he don't love you. But when a man does love you, he'll sit at the edge of your bed while you in your bed in your scarf or your bonnet, no makeup on, tissues all over the place because something going on in your family and you can't control it and you scared and you not sexual, you don't want to be touched or none of that stuff. He'll sit right there and talk to you about that. Hour, 2 hours. He'll hold space for you. The lesser version of you. And I say lesser because we all got better norm and lesser versions of ourselves. When a man loves you, even whenever you being negative, not towards him, not being messed up, not verbally abusing him or nothing like that, but you just not in a place right now to be all chipper. Right now you need to feel and process and experience some kind of heavy stuff. But he'll hold space for that too. Because when a person, y'all, it's a such thing as toxic positivity. I need y'all to be aware of this. Sometimes when a person tries to force you into positive, yeah, a man could be trying to be solution-minded, you know what I'm saying? He don't want to just sit in emotion. But sometimes a person is really just feeling too inconvenienced by some real stuff that you dealing with to let you deal with it. So they just try to force you into that positive. But a man who truly loves you, no, he won't let you wallow in it too long or forever, but he will hold space for you even when it's not as sexy, even when it's not as fun, even when, you know what I'm saying? He ain't getting nothing out of it. It's a one-way street at that point. He'll still hold space for you. Another way that you know that man loves you is when he considers you even in your absence. There are times where a guy will, you tell him what you like, or y'all together and you making note of things that you like or something like that, but it's out of sight, out of mind if you're not right there over his shoulder. But when a man loves you, I'm talking about on his way home from work after a long day, he'll stop and get your favorite drink, your favorite candy or whatever it is, just to remind you that he was thinking about you when you wasn't there. He considers you, he thinks about you, he protects you. You go to his friends and family, like he said, he's been saying positive things. When you told him something on the phone 2 weeks ago, a month ago, or however long ago, it just randomly pops up one day. Hey, look, I found this thing. I remember you telling me about this. Ain't this what you was talking about? Ain't this what you trying to do? Yeah, I was able to make a couple moves. Yeah, I was able to save up some extra bread. If you want to go ahead and make that move now. Yeah, I saw somebody else doing something similar to what you expressed interest in. That man loves you because now you're holding up real estate that goes beyond your physical. Any man can show you that he's thinking about you when you right there in his face and you holding him accountable. But when that man is sitting there thinking about you and considering you in times where y'all not right there up under each other, that's love. Another way to know that that man loves you is whenever you give him an adjustment that he needs to make in order to love you specifically, and he not only makes it right then, but he sustains it. Not because he's trying to make up for something, not because he's trying to earn your forgiveness or anything like that, but you just say, you're just giving him the game like, hey, like, you know, I need to be held sometimes. First thing in the morning. I don't need you to just pop up out of bed and go on about I need to be held for a little bit. Or whenever you talk to me in times of conflict, like this type of tone does work for me and this type of tone doesn't. And it requires him to make an adjustment, and he not only makes it but sustains it. What you're asking that man to do is to make a new habit or to break an old one, or maybe even both. And y'all know how hard that is. Y'all know how hard that is. And so if he's willing to do that and sustain it, that says that loving you is more important to him than his comfort, than his familiar with what he's used to doing. Maybe it worked for some other woman. Maybe that's just what he was taught. Maybe that's how he was raised and what he saw growing up. But for you, because he wants you and he's committed to a future with you, if this is what it takes to make you feel secure, he's willing to do it. That's a man that loves you. Another way to know that that man loves you is if he gets upset when you don't confirm or properly assure him when you're good. So say for instance, y'all just had a date or something like that, you know what I mean? And you didn't say, hey, I made it home safely. A man who loves you, and sometimes this can happen before the actual love. Sometimes he can just be considerate. But a man who loves you is going to let you know, hey, that ain't it. I need to know that you okay. Yeah, you took a road trip and you ain't hit me up once. To just not in a controlling way, but just like, no, like, I'm affected when I'm uncertain about your well-being. I'm affected. You know what I'm saying? Like you need a man that checks you whenever you do not tell him that you're okay, especially in a situation you go out of town, you go on a road trip or something happened or whatever, or he couldn't get a hold of you middle of the night, not because he thinks you're doing something wrong, but because he genuinely is not okay unless he knows that you're okay. And matter of fact, I'm gonna add one more to this because it's really similar. But when you don't allow him to help you be okay in times where you're not, y'all know how it is whenever you love your man. This is something we have in common because men and women are very different, but in this way, we're a lot alike. When you love your man and he shuts down in times where he's not okay, how that make you feel? How that make you feel? It makes you feel like, man, why I can't help you? Why I can't be here for you? Open up, blah, 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 right? A man who loves you would do the exact same thing. We're different in a lot of ways. This ain't one of them. This is why men get mad at y'all for being independent sometimes. It ain't because, you know, it's just bad. It's just like, man, if I love you, this is the way I can love you, is to make myself available to you and to contribute in some helpful way. So if you like to do things without him and you like to bring all of that, but he loves you, he's gonna have a problem with that. If that man don't love you, you go ahead, yeah, do everything by yourself, pay for everything by yourself, take on that struggle by yourself. Just strictly talk to your friends and your therapist when something's going on or something's heavy on your mind. Don't talk to him. He won't care. Because it's an inconvenience for him anyway. And also, when that man loves you, he will manage and he will develop himself as a way of bringing better to the relationship for you. You know that man don't love you if he give you that whole take me as I am when it comes to his toxic traits. I'm not talking about things that he likes and stuff. No, but when it comes to his toxic traits, any man that tells you, take me as I am, it is what it is. I ain't changing for nobody. Don't try to change me. That man don't love you. Straight. Just being straight. But when a man loves you, he will manage his internal environment if that's what it takes to protect you. In times of conflict, high stress, annoyance, or whatever, and he wants to say this, he wants to pop off, he will manage that if he truly loves you. First off, if he loves himself. But of course, a man can't love you if he don't love himself. But then on top of that, he will develop himself. You know a man loves you whenever he meets you and he can acknowledge like, man, like you a different type of girl, like you a whole different level. And that motivates him to raise his own level. Instead of trying to bring you down or just jumping ship so he can find somebody else who's willing to tolerate his toxicity, if he's willing to improve himself, put more energy into improving himself, more motivated to make more money so that y'all can be secure financially and take the next level in y'all relationship with peace of mind. When that man is willing to work on himself in terms of just how he talks, his emotional intelligence, to have those hard conversations, because he really wants to be compatible with you, but he feels like, you know what, right now she a little level above me. So what I'm gonna do is step my game up. That man loves you. And another way that you know that man loves you is whenever he puts you first. And I know this is gonna sound crazy because we shouldn't put nobody above God, right? So I'm not talking about God. But when that man puts you first, you know he loves you. And this is why. Because a masculine man's love is naturally sacrificial. Now, does that mean that he's not gonna care about himself or anything? No. But when that man will put you first, let's say in this context, very specific here, he's willing to trade stress with you. Give you an example. There may be times where man barely has enough money for himself. Even though he got the business, he got the job that pays well, there may be just times where he barely has enough money for himself. But if he sees that you stressing with some bills, he'll give you what he got so he could take that stress from you and put it on himself. That's what I mean. He'll put you first in that regard. You ain't okay. You know what I'm saying? He ain't okay. He ain't even got it. But he'll go out here and borrow to make sure you straight, or give you what the last of what he got and take on additional stress just to make sure you good. This is why we love a man that protects and provides. We respect that kind of man. It's not because men don't feel fear in times of danger or something like that. 3 o'clock in the morning, your door get kicked down. No, he feels fear, but he's going to trade that. He's going to take on more of your fear by going on and confronting that if he really loves you. Man who don't, of course, he going to hit it. And I know some of y'all are thinking, well, my man, he does some of this, but not all of this, or, he did this for a little while, but don't think like the moment you see a flaw or some type of chink in a man's armor in any of these categories, that means he automatically doesn't love you. Anybody can make mistakes. Anybody can fall off sometimes, but if he's at least willing to be accountable to get back on track, I would still say that man truly loves you and you got something to work with. No, love alone isn't enough, but that man does truly love you. Now, if you feel like you're dealing with a guy who y'all been together for a long time, right? And he's shown up like this at one point, but he done kind of fell off. One, he could be inconsistent. Absolutely. He could get comfortable. His mind is somewhere else. He checked out, whatever. But there's something we don't talk enough about as to why a man may be unloving, even though he does have love for you. And that's that a lot of men don't know how to process and release resentment. Honestly, a lot of people, but since we're on the subject of men, if that man is not being as loving and kind to you, I'm not saying he's a bad guy. Maybe he is, maybe he ain't. But I will say this. If he's not evolved to be able to handle his resentment and release that resentment, maybe you said something, maybe you offended him, maybe he feels like you should have been there for him at some point, and he's holding on to that resentment for you in a relationship, the love is not going to come through. It's kind of like a clogged pipe. It's like the love is there, but it can't get through that resentment. So he'll treat you as if he don't like you or don't care about you, when all the while is that he's not releasing that resentment. Because to release that resentment, it takes communication. It takes maybe a level of forgiveness if you have actually done something wrong. It takes transparency about what he's feeling. It takes confidence and a lack of ego dominance in order to actually just talk and have the conversation instead of expecting somebody to just figure it out or just punishing you passive aggressively. And that all requires a man to be evolved. This is why I'm not big on just a man who loves you or just a good man. He has to have evolved certain traits for it to properly communicate to you and be received by you, or at least have a chance to. And so a lot of y'all, you think you're dealing with these horrible dudes, and maybe sometimes you are, but a lot of times y'all just dealing with dudes who have not evolved. Y'all are not dealing with evolved men. And if you have not yet, I broke this down, so I'm not gonna go too far in depth on this on my free masterclass, How to Make an Evolved Man Crave You. I think it was Secrets to Make an Evolved Man Crave You. If you didn't get access to that free masterclass where I broke down the ways to identify a truly evolved man, how he's gonna show up for you versus those who are pretending, versus the high value man and the narcissist, but a truly evolved man who has done the work, who's not gonna just love you, but love you properly and give you the full package of care and protection and consideration, inspiration, being able to teach you something. If you have not gotten access to that masterclass yet, where I went in for over an hour, do yourself a favor. Get access for this last opportunity now at the link down in the comments. Secrets to Making Evolved Men Crave You. I broke this down. How to make evolved men crave you, but also how to identify a truly evolved man so that he doesn't just love you. Because if you ever, like I know, love alone ain't enough. But back to what I was saying, when that man loves you, it'll show up in ways that don't directly benefit or give him any type of instant gratification. He will love you and show you value in ways that do nothing for him right then and there. Because when a man truly loves you, he's trying to integrate you into his life for the long term, not just for the feel good, not just for the honeymoon, not just for the convenience, and not just the surface layer of you, but the deepest depths that you're even capable of. He's willing to love that too. But those are just my thoughts. I'm your internet brother trying to look out for you. If you got something of value from this, show me by hitting that share button so that somebody else on your timeline, your family, your friend, can also be blessed by this message. And if you have not yet, get access to my free masterclass, Secrets to Making Evolved Men Crave You. Because you deserve better, but you got to be willing to do something different to get something different. And again, that masterclass is absolutely free. Down at the link in the comments, also in the caption whenever you back out. Holla at your lady, y'all be